Thanks very much. Thanks very much for asking me. I'm going to talk about worker cooperatives in the UK. And that's my workers' cooperative logo there, Suma Whole Foods, and I'm also representing Cooperatives UK. When I say worker cooperative, I mean a business that is owned and democratically controlled by its employee members. How many of them are there? Well, we've heard earlier that different countries with different types of legislation and cultures have very different numbers of worker co-ops, and you can see there that the UK and the USA, relatively few. In fact, compared to the number of businesses in those countries, very few worker cooperatives. Whereas in Italy and France and Spain, with more sympathetic legislation and a culture which is more sympathetic to cooperatives, many thousands of worker cooperatives. I think that shows the difference that was being talked about earlier in terms of culture and environment. Notice that in the USA, there are many employee share ownerships. There are many thousands of businesses in the US which are owned by their workers, but not controlled by their workers. They are managed by specialist executive managers. And that again shows the difference in legislation. It is easier for workers to own the business, but not to control it. In the UK, we have employee-owned businesses. The John Lewis Partnership is a very big business with 29 department stores and hundreds of supermarkets, 7 billion sales, that's about 10 million euro, and 69,000 partners. The partners do not democratically control the business. They have a great deal of influence, but the business is owned by a trust and is operated for the benefit of the workers. And that's the difference between a worker cooperative and an employee ownership. So John Lewis, we say, is not a worker cooperative. I hope there's no one from John Lewis here today. Or we will have an argument about that. This is my co-op, a big industrial shed in the north of England. Suma was founded in 1977. We have recently broken through the £30 million turnover level, which is about 36 million euro. We have 125 member owners, and in all that time it has been unbroken growth. I have been at Suma through 4 major recessions, and we have never had a decrease in sales, ever. In the last year, we increased our sales by 10%, while other businesses, which we compete against, were going out of business. And also in that time, we have never made a single person redundant, and we have increased our wages by 5% a year for the last 25 years, to the point where our wages are now 66% higher than the market average. Everybody wants to work at Suma in our town. And yet we still post a profit. A small profit, and again, as we heard earlier, it looks like we're not a good business because our profit is very small. But every week we give it to the members in their wages. If we included that premium on the wages in our profits, we would be a more efficient wealth-generating business than the Apple Corporation. Quite a lot more efficient at wealth generation. And we're 100% self-financed, not one penny of government money, and entirely trading in a commercial market. The UK economy is a totally capitalist economy and is pretty hostile to worker co-ops. So if you have to do it by yourself. And I'm saying this to show you that even in such a hostile environment, it is possible for workers to run their own business and to be successful and to do better than the private investor competition. We have a radical version of democracy. We have collective management. We have no managing director, no chief executive. This is a particular style of worker cooperatives in the UK, which people from other countries find very strange, but it's an experiment that we're playing with, that we take decisions collectively and we use consensus decision making and there's very practical, active democracy on a day-to-day basis. I can talk more about that if you want to. We sell food. We sell specialist food, vegetarian and organically produced food of the highest quality. So we're in a specialist part of the food market. That's our warehouse. It must be a tea break because there's nobody actually working in that warehouse. It's usually full of people and machinery. So it's a fairly sizable warehouse. And there's a picture of some of the Suma members, and that was for our 30th birthday. You'll notice there's no suits, there's no offices, there's no closed doors, everything is totally open. Somebody described it as hippie heaven. It's not, it's actually pretty hard-nosed business, but we don't bother with all the status symbols. And that's one of our 20 trucks which we deliver all around the UK, and we now have a big and increasing export trade. We import food ingredients from China. We have them manufactured in the UK and in Italy, which is one of the European centres for food manufacturing, and then we export the manufactured products back to China because the Chinese middle class do not trust their own food manufacturers and they like to see a European label on their food products. So that's one good thing about excessive regulation in the EU. It means that people in other parts of the world can trust the product. That's a Suma general meeting, a members meeting. We have these big meetings 6 times a year where the big decisions are taken, the next year's business plan, big political decisions, and then every week there are 6 of these members elected to put those plans into operation, a management committee. They don't hold any individual power, they only hold the collective power when they sit in that committee. And then we have team coordinators as well. So there's a lot of coordination going on in Suma, but it's not traditional management. Do you have to choose between democracy and business success? I hope you'll get this presentation separately because it's going too fast to read and I'm going through it quite fast. We say that you should use good business management and good democracy. And that if you get both of those things right, you can outcompete big corporations. We outcompete businesses many times our size, backed up by lots of capital. We've pushed several of those corporations out of our market simply because our customer service and our relationships with our customers is so much better than theirs. They can't compete. They can offer lower prices, but their service is nowhere near as good, and our customers want good service. What we don't do in the UK very well, worker cooperatives, is work together with other cooperatives. That's maybe one of the reasons why there are so few of us in the UK, and something that we should be learning from Italy and Spain. Well, you know the cooperative principles. One of the problems we have in the UK, as well as in many countries, is that the ILO recognised 3 types of employment relationships: the waged employee, a worker owner or a worker cooperative member, and the independent self-employed person, maybe as a sole trader or as a partner in a business. In the UK, as in most countries, the worker cooperative member is not recognised, and so we have to fit into being either employees or self-employed. We can choose, it's not determined for us, but neither is appropriate, and both cause us problems. So employment law causes us problems in worker cooperatives, and as self-employed partners in a cooperative partnership, we can't use the cooperative principles properly. So our law it's not right for us. We have no cooperative law in the UK. We have to use existing business law and try and make it fit what we want to do. All right, this is doing it again. There we go. There's the two that are recognised in the UK. Something we developed at Suma, which is now spread throughout most UK worker co-ops, is that we say members have rights to vote, to be heard, but they also have responsibilities, which are equally as important. Members have a responsibility to take part, to take responsibility, to be cooperative, to communicate, to work for the common good. Now, at Suma, when we are looking at new members, if they don't show they are doing those things, they don't become a member. So it's not whoever turns up on the doorstep and starts working in the warehouse who becomes a member. It's who shows they are operating as a cooperative member. If they show they can do that, then they can be a member of our cooperative. And this has transformed several worker co-ops in the UK. Previously, it was open door. Anybody who managed to work there for 6 months automatically became a member. But now we're being more selective because it's the cultural problem. People are not educated to take responsibility in work. People are educated to either be a leader or to be a follower. And we want people to do both at the same time, which is difficult. So managing in a worker cooperative is quite different. And again, we heard this morning the need for new ideas about management. In a worker cooperative, labour hires capital. So who are the owners and what do they want? You can't treat people like machines or work units. So human resource management is a nonsense in a worker cooperative. We're not talking about resources as if they were warehouse machines or boxes on a shelf. We're talking about people with all of the wonderful and crazy and frustrating and annoying and exhilarating properties and behaviours that people have. What we need to develop in worker cooperatives, especially fairly small ones like ours, is a sense of collective authority, to develop the collective authority of the members. So in those members' meetings, the members decide what they want to happen. And then, as managers, we can make that happen for them. We are servant leaders. We are the servants of the members, but we are also leading the members at the same time. Again, having to do two things at once, which most managers don't do. I'll just talk about a few co-ops now. I'm just about finished then. I think I'm going to finish early. Okay. Let's say Calvert's, and there's a web address there if you want to have a look at them, is a printers in London. They started out doing cheap printing for trade unions and cooperative and community groups. That technology was wiped out by computers and cheap computer printing, and so now they have moved into graphic design and very high technology, high quality printing, so printing the catalogues for art exhibitions and things like that. and they do some fantastic designs. They produced T-shirts with this Co-op Love logo on it at our annual Cooperative Congress last year, and they only made 200 of them. So you had to go to their stand and talk to them about whether they could do some printing or design for you before they would give you one of these T-shirts. It was a great marketing device. This is a workers' cooperative in Manchester, a shop. Some young people in Manchester, very concerned about the quality of food, wanted to make good quality organic food available more easily, and they started their own shop. They raised the money from the local community. Once they had a little shop going, they said to their customers, will you lend us money so we can buy a bigger shop? And their customers lent them huge amounts of money. They had to say to the customers, stop it, that's too much, we have enough. It's a form of borrowing called loan stock, or this basically they issue bonds, credit bonds, which mature in 2, 5 or 10 years at a set rate of interest. And it was a very successful way of raising money. So they now have a large supermarket, which is an extraordinarily joyful and happy place to be, and people love shopping there. And they then ask their customers, again, will you lend us more money, issued more loan stock, and they've bought a farm. So they now grow their own vegetables, so it's local food, it's organically grown, and they have bigger margins now, so they're making more profits. So wins all round, fantastic. So again, they started from absolutely nothing, and there's not one penny of public money gone into that. Dillas are in Wales. They are a renewable energy cooperative, growing extremely fast at the moment and having problems coping with growth and their cooperative governance. They install solar panels, wind power. They work all over the world. They do hydro electricity as well. And they're an example of a workers' cooperative operating in a very fast-moving, fast-developing technology field where they have to be very careful not to be left behind. But being a worker cooperative, they were able to spot gaps in the market. So they spotted that a particular size of wind turbine, there was no good service or product available, and they now dominate that medium-sized part of the wind power market in the UK. Edinburgh Bicycle Cooperative started with one shop in Edinburgh, Scotland. They now have 6 shops across the UK, and they do their own brands of bicycles now and their own brands of clothing. They've become extremely fashionable. In London, you'll see people completely covered in Edinburgh Bicycle Cooperative branding. One of the things they did was get the idea that if you ride a bicycle, you are a rebel. So everything is in black and red, it's all anarchist colours, and it's all aggressive anarchist type writing. And so they've made it extremely fashionable, great designers. So compared to the mainstream bicycle retailers like Halfords, really boring, the place your dad goes, whereas you go to Edinburgh Bicycle and you buy a fashionable bicycle. Traffic systems in Yorkshire, in the north of England, they install and repair traffic lights and other traffic control systems. So a traditional engineering cooperative, 50 more or less self-employed engineers who've come together to work collectively. But again, absolute highest quality necessary. If they make a mistake and the traffic signals stop working on a busy road, they don't get hired again. And they're competing against major internationals like Siemens and GEC. So they can provide that quality. And what they say is they have a named engineer. So when a municipality traffic engineer says, oh no, the traffic lights have gone out on our major road, they can ring up a named engineer at Traffic Systems who they know who will come straight out to fix those lights there and then. Interestingly, as an engineering cooperative, they say they must have an identifiable managing director, because that in their market, you must have someone in charge. So every 2 years, they elect one of their number to be the managing director. And then they give the managing director all the problems and all the complaints for the next 2 years until it's somebody else's turn to be the dustbin for everything that goes wrong. Delta T devices, scientific instruments, again, have to be at the forefront of design. A small specialist cooperative in Cambridge worked quite closely with Cambridge University designing specialist scientific instruments. And this is a soil moisture meter, which doesn't have any prongs that go in the ground as it's there, for golf courses, for golf course greens, where you don't want to disturb the ground. They also, I think they're 40 years old now, and they've survived many changes. So we have quite a selection of co-ops there, which have some new, some old, but all of them surviving in very difficult circumstances. And we put together in the UK a Worker Cooperative Code of Governance, which is what we call the guide to running a successful cooperative business. And I'm not sure if people at the back can see the web address on the bottom. It's www.workercode, W-O-R-K-E-R, workercode, C-O-D-E, that's all one word, .coop, C-O-O-P. And a new edition of that is just about to come out. We've just republished it. But many of our new worker co-ops use this as a guide for setting up their co-op. And something I just want to say, because it wasn't in this handout, we are now getting a lot of support from our consumer cooperatives. The cooperative group is funding a national cooperative assistance service called the Cooperative Enterprise Hub, which has transformed the setting up of small cooperatives in the UK. Anybody wanting to set up a small cooperative can now apply for free assistance and access to finance through the Cooperative Enterprise Hub. And in the last 2 years, that's meant that we're seeing a lot more small co-ops being set up. Again, not 1 penny of government money. So this is entirely separate, but that has the unfortunate effect that hardly anybody in the government knows anything about us, and they're not interested either. So it's a case of a do-it-yourself economy. Thank you.